Hello there, whoever decided to click on this video and watched the, I guess we'll call it a tutorial. I had to kind of edit myself because I was taking a long time to do this one, so you'll see it skipping around a little bit. But I'm going to talk about this Furby painting behind me that I'm just finished up with today, and you'll see in the last clip that I'm wearing the shirt that I'm wearing here, my orange stripey Where's Waldo shirt. The rest of the video, it'll jump around because I worked on this a little bit every day for several days until I decided I got it where I liked it. So yeah, if you stick around, I'll just kind of tell you the different steps I used when I was making this, and that's it. That's what this video is, the vintage toy Furby tutorial. So basically, as I'm trying to do a tutorial here for you of this vintage 90s toy, I'm realizing that Bob Ross made this look a whole lot easier than it actually is to be able to get this on camera nicely without blocking the camera with the back of my head. So anyway, I think you can see what we're going for here, what toy this is supposed to be. And the first thing I did was just draw it out, sketch it out with pencil, good old pencil, and then I darkened all my outlines with a fine tip permanent marker, and now I'm going to go in and start doing the acrylic paint, and we're going to see how this turns out. It's for a client here who has, their kid has a birthday coming up, so I need to get it done before that. If you see me looking back at my computer weird and making a funny face, it's because I'm filming from my laptop, but it's also where I have reference images of what I'm trying to paint. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm painting all my lines in the background going the same direction because it's going to give me a nice grainy, almost faux wood texture and just be a little more interesting than a plain wall. This is a mop brush, by the way, just a mop brush. I think now I'm going to try to go in and do a little more so I can get closer to the Furby without completely coloring him in with the background colors with a little round brush. I think that'll do the trick nicely. I'm making short little strokes now, but I'm still just going in the same up and down vertical direction. And if you're trying to paint something like this, I mean, this is just my style to kind of line it out like this because I'm going for something that's a little more, you know, either comic book inspired pop art with a hint of the texture of realism. So if you wanted to go for pure realism, you wouldn't be doing those black lines. But I like to have them there. I think it makes them stand out from the background a little bit. At this point, I don't care if I'm coloring inside or outside the lines either, as long as I'm not filling in the whole thing, because I'm going to paint over the figure in the foreground after I do the background. So I am overlapping my red into the fur a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Just building up layers of color. You can always go darker. It's a lot harder to go lighter once it's dark. I'm trying to do brush strokes that either go all the way across the space I'm trying to paint red right now, or if I make shorter strokes, they're kind of feathering out so I don't leave a sharp edge where my paintbrush stops, because it's really easy to do that, and then it's going to look less like wood and more like I messed up. So just a nice light hand. I don't know, you probably can't see it on the camera, but there is a little bit of an edge right here that I didn't want there, and that's because I didn't feather my brush stroke enough. I had sort of to stop, and I left a mark that I didn't like. So again, keep a light hand and keep that brush moving is the best way to do this. It is worth noting that this red that I'm using, I've watered down a little bit here and there, and then I'm choosing spots to go back in where it's less watered down to make it darker, because that's kind of how wood grain looks. It'll have spots that have darker veins and lighter veins, so I'm just trying to emulate that. It's worth noting that I have no idea what my end goal is for the background here, other than that I would like it to look good. So I'm just doing stuff until I like the way it looks. I'll probably go back in with black here after I do the red, and do some black from the bottom up, because it'll give it some depth and some distance, but that's for once I'm done with the red. And if you're wondering, yes, my arm is getting tired from holding it up that high. So I'm going to take some black and mix it with my red and start bringing that up from the bottom and see what that looks like. I'm also going to switch to an angle brush for this part, because I can have a little more control over an angle brush, where the mop really just lays it on there, and the round brush kind of just lays it on there too in a little bit smaller area and streaks. Whereas the angle brushes let me have more control over straight lines. Looks like that. Angle brush. Super tool. Still just doing the same up and down strokes though. Just always going to be starting at the bottom this time, because that's where I want it to be darkest. Fade away from that ground line. And this paint that I'm doing the darker with is watered down just ever so slightly. To help it go over the canvas more smoothly. I feel like I said this before, but it's acrylic, not oil. If you water down oil, you're not going to get the same kind of results. You'd have to have linseed oil if you were using oil paints to kind of emulate this. Or something like linseed oil. But that's what's nice about acrylic, is you just need water. There are like gel mediums and things like that that you can use too, but I have had pretty good luck with water, and you just have to learn how to treat it a little bit more like painting with watercolor acrylic hybrid as opposed to just straight acrylic. And I'm just going to keep doing this, bringing dark up from the bottom and maybe some more red or white down from the top until I have this background painted. So I'm going to pause the video for a little bit and we'll skip forward to when I get to working on another part of this. So I ended up painting a little bit more than just this part of the background last time, when I went ahead and did the floor of the space that our vintage toy creature is living in, and I did it basically the same way with, you know, this was vertical red lines with black coming up, and here I did red going this way and horizontal lines with black for the shadow here. I'm actually going to go back in and add a little more black shadow, maybe not today. because I like to work on fur. I got ahead of myself and started obviously working on the mouth, but we're just gonna keep working and see where this goes. And this is just an angle brush again with a little bit of blue and white acrylic paint on it. Look like some ears, don't they? Because you can't really see too well on there. Just a little bit of blue. So I'm just going to keep going with this blue until it's baby blue, but you can hardly see, until I get the rest of the big portion of the Furby except for the belly, because that's going to be white colored in. And so I'll pause this recording and we'll flash forward until I get a little bit more done. As you can hopefully see here, I've got quite a lot more done. Let me tip my screen for you on the Furby painting, and I'm just expecting to finish up doing some more contrast work, so more the light's supposed to be coming from this direction, so more light coming from this way and more shadows going this way in both the background and on the Furby himself, and then we'll be done. So I'm just gonna pause the recording again for now and we'll see you when I get a little more done. Alright, so I finished painting in the fur, just acrylic paint, nothing too exciting, and just used a good old Sharpie to make everything sort of high contrast. You can see my shadows are more towards this side with my light source coming from way up here, which I talked about before. And all I'm going to do now is paint in these ears a little bit more because they're not super well blended, and then I think we're going to call this sucker done. So I'm pretty excited. Okay, so I finally got my ears a little bit more blended, and I think I'm done. I think we're done with this, and I'm pretty excited to deliver it. All I used blending the ears, I used this one before, little angle brush. It's allows me to get close to the lines without running over them too much. That's the angle helps me do nice straight lines, but then I also, if I don't have too much paint on the brush, can use it to blend just a little bit, so do that scumbling thing that I have talked about before. So yeah, thank you for watching the video, and I hope you think my Furby's kind of cool, because I'm pretty excited about this very pop art little creature here. So, and I hope my client likes it. She liked the progress picture, so I think we have a winner.